you remember Pseudo Regalia? Now, that was a great game. Did you know that that game actually came from a game jam called Metroidvania Month? If you don't know what a game jam is, it's when a bunch of game devs come together and they've got a theme to adhere to and a specific time limit to make any sort of game while adhering to that theme. So, obviously, it being called Metroidvania Month, you're supposed to make Metroidvanias. So, the theme with this one is minimalist. So, I thought, why not actually look into a few of these games and see if there's any gems in this jam. So, one thing to keep in mind again, this was developed in a month, so don't expect anything insane, but there's a bunch of cool stuff here that I'd like to highlight. So, I'll start off with Marbelous Maze. Now, I'm usually not a fan of these marble-based platformers, because I usually feel like they lack character, because you're just rolling around as a ball. But I saw it was actually rated very highly within the Game Jam's result, so I thought, okay, let me give it a shot. And woo, this is actually an excellently designed game. So yes, you are rolling around as a marble or whatever, but it just feels so damn good. It's momentum and physics based, which means if you're gonna want to make a long jump, you actually have to roll up and build up some speed to jump up, which I found to be super interesting. And it's not just the physics, like the games, even the sounds you make as you roll around or jump and hit things, it just feels so tactile. It contributes so much to the game feel, and it actually makes the game so fun to just roll around in. Legitimately, if this was just an obstacle course or something, I would have still been happy with this. But the great thing is, and this is the really interesting part, is that the way it incorporates the Metroidvania element is that, no, you're not unlocking a double jump or you're not going faster or anything. It's actually, you're unlocking different materials. So you start off with a steel ball, and you unlock a wooden ball, and there's an ice ball, and they all have different properties. And so, the thing I just found to be so good is that it doesn't, like usually in a Metroidvania, you unlock a double jump, and now you have access to a new place and whatever. The cool thing about this one is you unlock this new material, but that just gives you the puzzle piece you need to solve the puzzle that gets you somewhere, if that makes sense. These puzzles are also expertly designed. It always makes sense, and you're never left wondering how you're supposed to come up with a solution to it, because it just makes sense. For example, and this is a very basic example, let's say there's a vast body of water in front of you. As a steel ball, once you go into the water, you just sink. But if you want to actually cross this body, you can turn it into the wooden ball, and actually, because you're so light and you don't fall down to the bottom, you actually cross it. You can also freeze the body of water by turning into an ice ball. Now there's 2 extra balls, that's funny, that you unlock, that I'm not going to go into, but I was just supremely impressed by this. The soundtrack is also great and has some moments where it shines, specifically when you unlock the 4th ball form. Again, check this out. It can take you from about half an hour to an hour to go through, and it's a definite recommend for me. And I really hope that this turns into a full game, because I think it's my favorite marble-based game. Let's keep the momentum going with momentum. So this is a rollerblading game, and the hook with this is, and this kind of caught me off guard when I was playing the game, is you actually don't control the character themselves. Both left and right sticks move the camera, and the only thing you actually control with the character is whether or not the character is accelerating. So what this means is the character goes towards where the camera is pointing. As you can see, the game looks fantastic. Like, that skybox is just insane. The movement also feels great. Here's the thing though, there is no jump button for a big part of the game. You're gonna have to use ramps to cross gaps, and you're gonna have to build enough speed to be able to cross gaps. So what this means is you're gonna have to, for example, find a way within a small area to build up enough momentum to hop off into the next area. And this all feels great. I'd say, so there's not too much of a Metroidvania aspect to this. You do unlock a move here and there, but more than anything it is just, I think, like a kind of like a linear, I'd say, platformer, but it's still really interesting, and I'd recommend giving it a look. So up next is the most, out of all these, it's probably the boldest Metroidvania, because here's the thing. your walking speed is insanely slow and you cannot run. And your main form of traversing the environment is you actually jump, and your jump is a fixed distance. This means you'll have to actually calculate your jumps. This is the game I actually wanted to like a lot more than I did. And the reason for that is, I mean, okay, look at the art. It looks great. The main character design looks great. Animations look great. The idea itself is such a bold idea that you can't help but want to like this game. It's just got a few issues that really hold it back, and one of them is that you can see these enemies throughout the game, and these enemies, when they hit you, you just respawn back to your last checkpoint, which might be super far away. Now in a game like Pseudo Regalia, where you've got super fast movement and everything, that's fine. But when it takes you like 2-3 minutes to get to where you previously were, and a single hit from another character can actually send you back all the way to your spawn point, it's kind of frustrating. And now add on top of that the slow attack animation, and then on top of this the trial and error gameplay of calculating your jump and making sure you don't fall into a hazard. And that's a very frustrating combo. I didn't finish this game, but again, I really appreciate what they're going for, and I feel like with a few fixes, this would probably be a lot more fun. I would love to see where they would be able to take this, because I feel like there's not really much out that's like this. Give this a try if you've got some patience. So, next up we have, I think it's called Onmyodo. I actually don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but this is one of the ones that more adjacent to Pseudo Regalia, like in terms of feel. It's actually one of the shorter ones, so if you don't have that much free time, this is probably a great one to actually try out. So the thing about this game is I do really like it. It's just that I feel like nothing about it specifically wowed me. There's a lot of good, but nothing that's like fantastic or like blew me away. Still, I feel like if this were a full game, I would 100% give it a shot and try it out, because the game is actually pretty fun. The character design is cool. The world looks like flat out great at times, and just the general vibe is very strong, and I think that's a good base to build the game off of. The actual gameplay is fun, but it's nothing like, again, mind-blowing. The combat, I'd say it's probably the weakest part, because number one, you can just kind of avoid all the enemies, and number two, it's just kind of a hassle to fight the enemies. It really doesn't seem like there's a way to avoid getting hit. But still, just looking at the game, I feel like this has a lot of potential, and I know I'm probably going to be saying that a lot today. It has a lot of potential, and I feel like if they find a specific hook, this could be the next Pseudo Regalia. I'm going to go from one Pseudo Regalia like to another, and this one is actually a lot more similar to what Pseudo Regalia is, and this is Reliance Undone. Again, like I said in the beginning, a lot of the games were made in a month, so ignore some of the glitches. Like, you know, in this game when you crouch you kind of go into the floor, or when you try to climb up the poles you do so in a T-pose. Things like that don't really matter in a game jam game. What matters is the gameplay fun, and the gameplay in this was really fun. So this is actually the first game I played out of all of these, and this is what actually inspired me to make the video, because I actually had such a great time with this. So it's very similar to Pseudo Regalia in that you're an agile character, you go through these dungeons and stuff and solve puzzles and everything. I think the great thing about this is actually the level design and the moves that you unlock. Yes, like any other Metroidvania, there are a lot of times where I was lost, but I feel like I'd always eventually find out where I need to go, and every time you unlock a move, it makes moving around so much more fun. So I'd say the highlight of this game is the movement, and one of the moves in particular I found really fun. It's you basically spawn a grappling hook mid-jump and retain the momentum that you had, which means you can slide jump into a grappling hook and basically use your momentum to vault yourself up. And I know that sounds really weird, but I'm sure I'll put that on video. But I just found combining all these moves together to be so much fun, and I spent a while playing this game. In fact, I actually enjoyed this game so much so that I actually played through it a second time to record this video, and had an even better time because I know what I was doing. I'd say maybe it's a bit hard to figure out what you need to do at certain points towards the end, but again, this isn't a complete game, so I'm not going to fault it on that. Up next we have Subspace Jump. So this was actually the second game I played, and I found the movement to be too freaking good for a game jam game. So this is more, I think, of a technical or movement showcase than it is an actual Metroidvania. Yes, you do unlock moves as you go along, but I think it's more built to show off what they have, and I'm not exactly sure, but maybe to build towards an actual full game. I don't know, but the movement in this game is actually fantastic. It feels so fun just to move around, and even from the get-go, because usually with these Metroidvanias, it feels like you're a bit hampered in the beginning and you don't have that many moves and everything. But with this game, even with the few moves that you do have, it's still really fun just moving around and doing stuff. And it only increases in fun as you unlock more moves, of course. This one's pretty short, actually. It takes around, I think, around half an hour to finish it completely. There's not too much to say about this, just it's a very high quality, let's say, proof of concept. And I really hope that within the next few years that there's a game out there with these mechanics, because I feel like it will be doing them a disservice by not being in an actual game. So yeah, give it a shot. Also, I forgot to mention, this game has a seemingly inaccessible area after you finish the game. The funny thing is you can actually reach this, and the cool thing is you can unlock even a few extra moves by reaching this area. And I just found that to be super cool, and I can imagine myself as a kid losing my mind over this, so props on them for that. So up next is Zendo. So this one is actually one of the more unique ones in the jam, because whereas all the rest were built in Unity or Unreal, this was built in its own engine, which I found to be super impressive. So this one you're playing as a shinobi in, I'm gonna call it feudal Japan, I don't even know, I'm gonna call it that. It gives off very, I don't know, like N64 PS1 vibes, like RPG vibes. You unlock a bunch of stuff throughout the game. And one thing I really liked about this game is that I actually almost was never lost. Whenever I'd unlock a new power or move, I'd always know where to go next. And that's helped by the existence of a map and being able to place markers on the map. Now, I didn't make use of this, but I can imagine this being super useful if this were a full game. The moving around and the combat is really fun. I really like the vibes. They've got this feature similar to, I think, the Ocarina and Zelda Ocarina of Time, where you can play, instead of an ocarina, you can just whistle, but you can do specific things by playing different songs, which I found to be really cool. This one has a lot of potential, but even as is, I feel like it's a very good and complete but short game. And again, the setting is super interesting. You don't really see that many platformers with this setting. So yeah, give it a shot. And if you're a fan of Paramore, up next is Misery Business, which is the last game I played before I started this video. And let me preface this by saying the video looks really weird and washed out, but the actual game looks fantastic. In fact, I think it might be my favorite game in terms of visuals because it's so unique. The game's got such a weird, unique vibe that I really liked. And speaking of unique, the first power-up that you unlock is actually a handgun. And you can actually use this handgun to shoot down walls and kill enemies and stuff, which was a surprise because you don't really see that often in Metroidvanias. The jumping feels great, the animations look great, the vibes again are really cool. Out of all the games, this is the one with the world that I was most interested in. There were a few times where I was a bit lost, but you know, again, it's a Metroidvania. It still does a lot of really cool things that you don't really see in other Metroidvanias. And I really hope, and again, I've said this countless times in this video, but there is so much potential with this. And I can imagine myself playing a game that's like 6 hours long or something with this gameplay and everything. So I really hope that they do consider that. So yeah, that's a few standouts from Metroidvania Month 30. Let me know which ones you found the most interesting. I actually had a great time going through these. I generally hope all of these actually get worked on more, because I would love for these to be full-on games. But yeah, let me know if you'd like more of these types of videos. Actually, there's 30 more of these Metroidvania months. I can go through a bunch of the older games. There's a lot of 2D ones that I actually haven't gone through that I wouldn't mind going through. So yeah, let me know if you like this, and I guess stay tuned for more.